who remember it. It began with the forging of the Great Rings. 3 were given to the elves, immortal, wisest, and fairest of all beings. 7 to the Dwarf Lords, great miners and craftsmen of the mountain halls. And 9 rings were gifted to the race of men.
Lord of the Rings is one of the best book series and film series of all time. I mean, seriously, who hasn't heard of Lord of the Rings, right? Looking at you in the back. The Lord of the Rings started as a book series, becoming a sequel for the book The Hobbit. Then in 2001, the very first live action Lord of the Rings movie was released called The Fellowship of the Ring. After that, they made a second Lord of the Rings movie called The Two Towers in 2002, and a third one called The Return of the King in 2003. But we will mainly be focusing on the first movie, The Fellowship of the Ring. The story takes place in an imaginary continent called Middle Earth, which is not your everyday continent. It's full of elves, dwarves, goblins, dragons, wizards, trolls, and the list goes on. But of course, we also have hobbits. Hobbits are short, human-like folk that are around 3'6" and shorter than dwarves. They have curly hair and grow hair on their feet, but we will be focusing on one hobbit named Frodo Baggins. Frodo Baggins is a young hobbit who has always dreamed of going on an adventure, just like his uncle Bilbo, and Bilbo is the main character of The Hobbit. And Lord of the Rings takes place 60 years after The Hobbit, but today we're only focusing on The Lord of the Rings. So one day, Bilbo's old friend is a wizard named Gandalf, by the way, named Gandalf the Grey, who visits Bilbo for his 111th birthday. Yeah, he's old. It's during his birthday that Gandalf discovers that Bilbo possesses a magical ring that can turn you invisible, but this ring is evil. It has the spirit of an evil general named Sauron who used this ring to rule the world and spread evil. Gandalf tells Frodo that the ring needs to be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom, but the problem is that there is an army of orcs who are being led by an evil wizard named Saruman the White, who is trying to take the ring so he can rule the world with the spirit of Sauron. So Frodo goes to Rivendell, the home of the elves, and creates the Fellowship of the Ring, made up of 8 people, 2 men, 4 hobbits, 1 elf, and a dwarf, and of course, Gandalf.
And my axe.
So be it. You shall be the Fellowship of the Ring.
Right. Where are we going?
Okay, now that I've told you the plot, now it's time to tell you why this movie is so great. Well, to start, the movie has good cinematography. Why do you ask? Well, for example, they use close up, slow motion shots of the ring in the air as it falls on someone's finger. When Frodo wears the ring, he becomes invisible, and the film shows this by changing the color of the movie to shades of blue and gray, so the audience understands something strange and unnatural is happening. Are you following? The cinematography adds a cool feel to the movie. For example, when there's a fighting scene, if the fighting scene is depressing and or scary, it will be in slow motion and Frodo will have a dramatic expression on his face and the camera will focus on him. The cameras also take sweeping wide angled shots, like for example when people are riding on horses across beautiful landscapes. And these landscapes of New Zealand have also been digitally enhanced to look like tokens descriptions of the cities and geography of Middle Earth. There is a scene when the evil wizard Saruman the White is using magic to spin Gandalf the Grey and send him flying. It is especially good In many scenes, they use special camera tricks to make the Hobbit look shorter than the other actors, even though the actors are also full grown adults. Now, here's a second reason why the movie is so great. They use very good costumes. In the movie, they do an outstanding job at making orcs and goblins that are very ugly looking and look almost real. The costume designers work with special effects people to create ghosts of kings that have hoods over their heads but have no faces. Pretty creepy, right? They also have really good night costumes. In fact, the way that the different types of people look and dress are carefully coordinated. For example, the elves have long pointed ears and have straight long blonde hair, while the hobbits wear wigs, have curly brown hair, and they wear big false hairy hobbit feet. To wrap this up, The Fellowship of the Ring, along with its two sequels, is one of, if not the best, mythical and fantastical movies you can watch. The movie is for an audience who loves action, adventure, and myth. J.R.R. Tolkien was an Oxford professor who used his knowledge of Norse myths and Old English sagas to create his own fantastical universe, and Peter Jackson was very careful to follow the storyline set out in the books.